Howdy folks, it's the start of another week, so that means it must be time for another episode of Mingles with Jingles. And, well, the first thing I wanted to talk about today is actually a funny story. It's something that happened to me this weekend, but it's leading me on to something else that's been bothering me for a long time, and I never really quite realised until, well, this weekend. What are you talking about, Jingles? It's got nothing to do with games, by the way. I should just put that out there right now, just so you know what to expect. As you're aware, Saturday's my day off. It's my one day off a week, which means there's no video on a Sunday because I'm out enjoying myself on Saturday rather than sitting down editing videos. And so this week, Rita and I decided we're going to go out for a meal because it's been a while since we've done that. Actually, okay, I'm going to get sidetracked here because it's just reminded me of a story about this place. The last time we went to this restaurant, I remember this quite clearly, although I'd completely forgotten about it until I started talking about it right now. This is an expensive restaurant. I mean, you know, it's no Hester Blumenthal, Gordon Ramsay, 3 Michelin starred restaurant, but a meal for two in this place is going to cost you 3 figures, easily. So it's not the kind of place we go to every week, right? It's kind of expensive. In fact, it's not even the kind of place we go to every month. But it's a very, very nice restaurant. The food is fantastic, and we do like to go to this place every now and then. The last time we went was a couple of months ago, and I can remember the table in front of us. There's a couple sitting at this table, and they stuck in my mind for 2 reasons. First of all, she was so far out of his league. I mean, the guy wasn't ugly or anything, but it was like watching Claudia Schiffer sitting down at a dinner table with Bill Gates, right? It was... So, I mean, she was stunning, and he absolutely wasn't. But the second unusual thing about this couple was neither of them could have been older than 15 years old. Now, they weren't there with their parents. It was a romantic dinner for two. There was just the two of them there. And I remember sitting there feeling really proud of this little geeky kid because he had the confidence to go up and ask what was basically the prom queen to go out on a date with him. And she'd said yes. So I'm sitting there feeling really proud of this kid for some strange reason. But after a couple of minutes of sitting there feeling very pleased for this kid, suddenly the penny dropped. And I thought to myself, oh wait, I get it now. We're in a restaurant where it's going to cost you at least £100 for dinner for two. So this is a 15-year-old kid who can afford to take somebody out on a date to a restaurant where it's going to cost at least £100 for dinner for two. Is it really any surprise that he's sitting here with the prom queen? Right, I get it now. Yeah, suddenly it all makes sense. Anyway, back to the point of the story. Sorry about that, I got sidetracked, but that just popped back into my head as soon as I mentioned this particular restaurant. I'd completely forgotten about that, but it very much amused me at the time. So, anyway, we're rushing to get to this restaurant because we're running a little bit late. And we want to make sure we get there before they give our table away. And in the crowd behind me, I hear or at least I thought I heard somebody shout, Jingles! And I thought, no, can't have happened. I'm not at Tankfest anymore. And then again, Jingles! And I thought, you've got to be kidding. It doesn't happen very often. It really, really doesn't. Because that's one of the perks of being, you know, moderately famous within a very niche genre. Because I can still go out and buy bread and nobody gives a shit. Most of the time. Every now and then. Doesn't happen very often. Probably because I don't leave the house very often. But every now and then I still get recognised when I'm doing the shopping or when I'm going out for dinner on a Saturday night. And I never really know how to deal with it. Because it's... When I'm at something like Tankfest, or I'm going to a gaming convention, or Comic-Con, or anything like that, you're prepared for it. You know, you expect, because I've announced, hey everybody, I'm going to Tankfest, or hey, I'm going to Comic-Con, or I'm going to, you know, this game convention. Looking forward to meeting as many of you there as possible. So I'm kind of prepared for it, but it always takes me by surprise when it just happens out in the street. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time to stop and chat with this guy because I was running late and I didn't want him to give my table away. And I do feel kind of bad about it now because, well, the least I could have done was... I mean, I stopped and I shook his hand and I said hello and I said, sorry, we've got to rush because we're late for dinner. But You know, it's a big deal for him. It's not a huge deal for me, because I'm rushing trying to catch my dinner, but it's a big deal for, you know, the guy who spots me in a crowd when he's just out doing some shopping. And the least I could have done was spare 30 seconds to stop and have him take a picture and a selfie and, you know, what have you. So, if you're watching this episode of Mingles with Jingles, I do apologise for that. I should have, you know, dedicated a bit more time towards you. But we did eventually get to this restaurant. I will get to the point of this story eventually, I promise. So, we had a great meal. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. And on the way home, Rita's phone goes off. Rita's got a new phone, by the way. It's the first time she's ever had a smartphone, and she's basically joined to it by the hip. She will not put it down, and it's constantly going off. So I was like, oh, what is it now? So she flips the phone out and says, oh, it's the restaurant we've just been to. They're asking for a review. I thought, well, hang on a minute. How does the restaurant know that you have just had a meal there? Everything was booked in my name. She says, oh, well, I've got location services on. What? Well, my phone knows where I've been, and because I've just been to a place that's on TripAdvisor or something, it's now asking me for a review of my experience. So my first thought was, okay, that makes sense. And then immediately after that, my second thought was, whoa, hang on a minute. Don't you find that incredibly intrusive? The fact that your phone is monitoring where you're going and what you're doing, and it's reporting it to whoever. So, and that's exactly what I said to her. I said, do you not find it a bit creepy that because you've got your location services on, somebody on the internet is able to keep track of your location and your whereabouts and what you're doing? And she said, well, I keep the location services on because it allows me to have access to useful things. I said, such as? Well, like the weather report, for example. Oh boy, I had fun with that one. Oh, so I said to her, the weather, really, Rita, I'm going to let you in a little secret here that's been passed down from generation to generation through time immemorial. Here's how you tell what the weather is like without having to turn location services on your smartphone. You ready for this, Rita? You ready? Just look up. If you get dazzled, it's nice and sunny. And if you get wet, it's probably raining. It's not hard, Rita. So I'm having a good laugh at her expense. But as I'm doing it, we were queuing up for a ferry at the time. And I looked around and realised everybody else queuing up for that ferry, even the couples, they all had their smartphones out and they all had their faces down and they're all looking at their smartphones. Rita and I were the only two talking to each other in a public place on a Saturday night. It was like The Walking Dead, all these zombies just shuffling around, staring down into their smartphones. And the apps that they were engrossed in, how many of those apps wanted to know where they were, what they were doing, who they were with, who their friends are, what their friends' email addresses are? Every time you download an app for your smartphone or your tablet, how many of you actually bother to check exactly what you're giving these apps access to? I do. That's why I don't have a huge amount of apps on my phone or my tablet. Because I don't care how good the reviews are for Super Mega Space Blaster 32. I can't think of a single good reason why a game needs access to my contact list. And unless you're installing Pokemon Go or Google Maps, I can't think of a single good reason why an app would need access to your location services either. Well, that's not strictly true. I can think of lots of good reasons, but none of them are particularly good reasons for me. They're great reasons for marketing and advertising firms to track your location and your spending habits, but none of them are going to make your life any better. I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and it may surprise you. In fact, I hope it does surprise you. I do not get junk mail. At all. I don't get junk mail of any type or description. I don't get junk text messages on my phone. I don't get junk email on my email account. I don't even get junk mail put through the letterbox of my front door. Well, I get some, but I don't get stuff that's addressed to me. You can't stop the guy that runs the local kebab shop from sending somebody around the local housing estates and posting his menu through everybody's front door. But I don't get anything specifically addressed to me. Nothing. At all. Ever. And I've achieved this through the simple method of not giving anybody my phone number, address, or email address unless they bloody well need it. When I install new software, I don't enter my email address to receive free updates, because if I need to get the thing patched, I'll just go to the developer's website and download it myself. I don't have any store cards, even for supermarkets. Particularly not for supermarkets, they're probably the worst. The amount of money that you actually save is negligible. The only thing a store card does is track your specific spending habits. The supermarket doesn't need to know how many bottles of Coke you're buying in any given month. They already know how many they're selling because they have to restock. What the store card does is it tracks your specific spending habits. And the supermarket then sells that information on to advertisers, or people who run mailing lists for advertisers. And that's how you end up getting junk mail through your front door and on your phone and delivered into your email inbox. I don't give my phone number away. Unless, of course, it's to somebody I might actually be interested in talking to every now and then. Here's another one. Why does a clothing shop need my email address and phone number? Is there going to be a patch for the shirt coming out in 6 months that they might need to get in touch with me about? I tried buying a shirt from a Ralph Lauren shop a couple of months ago, and they would not let me buy that shirt without giving them my email address. Now, I've bought a lot of shirts in my time. I've been around 47 years. I've owned a couple of shirts. And I managed to successfully buy shirts long before there was an internet and long before there were email addresses. I didn't have any problems then. Why am I having problems now? I stood there at the counter of this shop for 10 minutes trying to explain to the shop assistant that they did not need my email address in order for me to give them money for one of their shirts. And eventually I just gave up and left without the shirt. I value my privacy more than I value a fancy shirt from Ralph Lauren. Obviously they want my email address so they can spam me with advertising. I get it, they're a retailer. But what about charities? Charities are getting just as bad these days as well. Have you ever tried recently giving money to a charity without giving them your phone number and email address? You should try it. It's harder than it sounds. Next time you're in a shopping mall, give it a try. There's always various different charities collecting in shopping malls. And I do give money to several charities every month, and I do it via direct debit from my bank account. And I don't have a problem with that. But try doing it next time you're in a shopping mall without giving away your phone number and email address. You would be amazed at how hard it is. In fact, now, just to save time, whenever somebody in a shopping mall stops me to ask whether or not I wish to donate to their charity, the very first thing I say is, can I do this without giving you my phone number and email address? Because there's no earthly reason why a charity would need my phone number and email address. I mean, surely they want my money. And I don't have a problem with giving them my money. But can I give you my money without giving you my phone number and email address? It's next to impossible. It's actually quite tragic. You would be amazed at how many very worthwhile charities have lost out on my money because they weren't prepared to respect my privacy. So I guess what I'm saying is, the next time you're installing an app or a game or whatever on your smartphone or your tablet, just have a look at exactly what permissions these applications are asking for, and ask yourself, why do they need to know that? Or you can just hit the I accept button. It all depends on how much you value your privacy. Speaking of apps, have you heard the news about World of Warships Blitz? Yep, World of Warships for mobile devices is going to be a thing. Well, technically it already is a thing. They've had a soft launch of the app on Google Play and the App Store. There is a catch. It's only available at the moment in the Philippines. Or, if you can convince Google Play or the App Store that you are downloading and installing it from the Philippines, then you're good to go. But it works. It's still pre-release, obviously. They've only done a soft launch in the Philippines, but it is surprisingly stable. And I have to say, I'm astonished at how good the graphics are for a mobile device. They don't look that much different to World of Warships on the PC. The ship models in particular are spectacularly good. Now, I can't say too much about World of Warships Blitz. which is a bit of a shame because the news is already out there. I mean, it's available on Google Play and the App Store. Because I have promised not to say too much about it ahead of a more general release. I have seen it. I have spoken to the developers. I do have a lot of questions for the developers, but I'm not allowed to talk about it just yet. I will be talking about it in the future, however. I am definitely going to be playing it. I'm very, very excited by what I've seen. My only problem at the moment is it doesn't work on the Kindle Fire. And that's my tablet. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to be getting a new tablet. Basically, just because I want to play World of Warships Blitz. That's how stoked I am about this game. It really does look amazing. I'm sure there are videos up on YouTube about it already. Go and have a look. See what you think. But in the next couple of weeks, I do hope to be getting my own hands-on with World of Warships Blitz and pushing some videos out there to keep you up to date on the development of it. In other news, I got a very unusual email today. It turns out there's a Mighty Jingles subreddit. And one of the moderators emailed me asking if he would have permission to use my name on it. I thought, well, can't stop you, but thank you for asking. And also asked if I would mention the Mighty Jingles subreddit. So, hey, I'm mentioning the Mighty Jingles subreddit. I have to admit, I don't have much of a presence on Reddit. Just about the only time, well, in fact, the only time I've used Reddit this year was tracking the whole fuss about Surf Fosh and wargaming and so on and so on. There was a lot of useful stuff posted on Reddit. But I have to admit, my curiosity got the better of me. I thought, there's a Mighty Jingles subreddit, I must go and have a look. And it's a bit quiet in there. It's like a ghost town. I had a quick look. There have been, let me see, I'm looking at it now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts. 1, 2, 3 of them are 2 years old. One of them is 1 year old. And one of them is a month old. And the most recent one was, let's get Jingles nominated. I thought, well, no, nominated for what? Wanker of the Week? What's going on here? Turns out they've been trying to get me nominated for the Streamy Awards. Now, first of all, what the hell's a Streamy Award? So I had to go and investigate. Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's awards for live streamers. Unsurprisingly, I didn't get nominated. Despite the best efforts of all 31 people reading the Mighty Jingles subreddit, I somehow didn't get a nomination for a Streamy Award. So, yeah. But anyway, it's there. If you guys want to use it, then by all means. It seems like as good a place as any to gather and talk about, me. God, that sounds weird. Anyway, it's there. It's a thing. Use it if you wish. Anyway, one other thing that I do need to talk about in this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles, and it's something that I keep trying to remember to talk about in every episode of Mingles with Jingles that I've put up since Tankfest. And I do apologise, by the way. You'll know who you are as soon as I start relating the story. This was a story that was told to me in combination with a gift that was given to me at Tankfest, and I am so ashamed that it's taken me this long to get around to relating the story that was told to me at Tankfest by the person who gave me the gift. What are you talking about, Jingles? Get to the point. When I was at Tankfest, a huge bunch of you gave me all kinds of stuff. There's always a contingent from the Netherlands that bring me, I always mispronounce this, I keep calling them stroopwafels. They're stroopwafels apparently, but anyway, food and stuff, and drink, and models, and toys, and somebody gave me a belt with 50 caliber ammunition, all sorts of things. Excuse me, sorry. One of the gifts that I was given was a very, very small silver figurine, a sort of toy soldier of a medieval knight. And this had quite some historical significance. The chap that gave me this figurine, it belonged to his grandfather. Now, I apologise again, because it has been a while since Tankfest, and I'm probably going to get some of the details of the story wrong, but I'll do the best I can. This is the one detail of the story that I'm not entirely sure that I've remembered correctly. This guy's grandfather was either the commander of a Cromwell tank or he was the member of the crew of a Cromwell tank. And the commander of the tank had a whole bunch of these silver toy knights that he gave to each member of the crew. You know, for luck. Anyway, they're going ashore on D-Day in their Cromwell, and they're fighting their way off the beach when the tank gets hit as it's cresting a ridge, and it gets immobilised, but the track's blown off. And they find themselves sitting there right in front of a bunch of German Panzers and anti-tank guns. They're convinced that their number's up and they're all going to die. And then at that precise moment, a naval bombardment from the battleships and cruisers off the shore lights up the entire ridgeline. And when the smoke and dust clears, they're still alive, and all of the German positions and panzers had been knocked out by the Navy. Now, this chap that I met at Tankfest said that his grandfather put this down to the lucky toy silver knight that he'd been given. And so it stayed with him all the way throughout the rest of the Second World War. He survived. The toy silver knight was passed down from grandfather to father and eventually to son. And apparently the grandfather had said that he wanted the toy to end up with a sailor as a thank you to the Navy for saving his life on D-Day. And I ended up being the sailor that silver knight was given to. At the time, I really didn't know what the hell to say. I mean, what do you say to something like that? It's an absolute honour. Obviously, you say thank you, because it's an amazing story. But to be entrusted with a family heirloom like that, it's one hell of an honour. Now, I certainly don't feel like I'm worthy of it, but obviously somebody out there thinks that I am. And that is certainly a huge honour. And so I must apologise, I cannot remember your name. You have to understand, I met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at Tankfest. Your story stuck out in my mind. Sadly, not enough for me to mention it right after Tankfest, but every episode of Mingles with Jingles that I've done since Tankfest, after I've encoded it and started uploading it, I've always sat here kicking myself thinking, damn it, I forgot to tell the story about the toy knight. Well, after several severe kickings, my backside was getting very, very sore, so after last week's Mingles with Jingles, I actually wrote it down to ensure that I didn't forget it again this week. I really can't thank you enough for entrusting a family heirloom like that to, you know, me. And I'll do my best to be worthy of it. It really is a huge honour. Thank you so much for your generosity, for stopping and taking the time to tell me the story about your grandfather. I just wish I could remember your name. Please, if you're watching this episode of Mingles with Jingles, say something in the comments. And once again, thank you very, very much indeed. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope the rest of the week doesn't suck too much. And as always, take care. And I'll catch you next time.